Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. For those who are not aware or don't remember, we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions directly to me. It will help make communication more fluid and private for you. Let's make some silence first. Nothing to hold on to. Nothing to consider. I remain untouched. The world comes to me, but doesn't touch me. I deem it insignificant, unimportant, unexistent. So eyes closed, the silence, the stillness that you find possible, existing, being experienced, more or less you can compare it with the same silences and stillness that you find eyes open towards the supposed world. So to increase this undistracted silence, this silence which happens more or less at the source of the eye, eyes open, this silence has to be increased. Noise present in the mind, agitation in the mind, restlessness, all this comes from worldly importances. And what is something worldly? What is considered worldly? That which sustains the existence of that individual character, that is worldly. And even sometimes the divine can become something worldly if it is used by this character to maintain itself. This understanding can lead to jumpy conclusions. Yes, it is possible, but still, this is how it works. Because at one level, that which is divine, that which the character holds on to uplift himself from that which is worldly. So that divine, either a figure of God or whatever, a saint, a sage, a teaching, whatever, if it is helping in that moment to uplift from worldly conditions other ones, then it is something divine. It is seen as something divine, something to aspire to. But if at some point, as you have uplifted yourself from that, then that same divine teaching, character, or whatever, if it starts being used as something that you're holding on to, and not something that you're aspiring to, then that becomes worldly also, because it is feeding the character. So as you abstract from the world as an attitude, when you close your eyes, when you go into meditation, or at least when you use the form of meditation, but in a different way, not as the one who is going to meditate, not as a way of abstracting from the outer, concrete, more agitated world, closing yourself, closing as best as you can the door of the senses, and remaining in that intimate space, directing your attention towards the source of the eye. And as you are doing this, more and more. The same outlook, the same attitude has to be present during the time where the eyes are open, where you're exposed to much more stimulus, much more stories, tales of human life, of personal afflictions and all of that. And the same attitude has to be taken again and again, again and again, for every serious situations, for every unquestionable situations. An inner laugh has to be there arising. Like, I know where you're coming from, what you want, but I will not give it to you. This will help to increase the times where eyes are closed, and when eyes are closed, this will help when eyes are open. And in this way, this detachment, this remaining at the source, becomes more and more, more and more, more and more, and will grow more and more. From those who have tasted a little bit of this inner attitude, whatever that means, you know that there is some lightness involved. I will use this word lightness. Opposing when eyes are open and situations unfold, there is this constriction, something that tries to squeeze and make it tight and tight and tight. This is like you're being pushed onto believe, onto giving importance to this, to whatever is unfolding. So this attitude has to be brought during these situations that are unfolding. Like you were in that place, in that intimate place, staying at the doors of heaven, at the doors of the eye source. Okay, my friend, I will answer your questions now. Dear Shima, how to fully surrender? I explain. Sitting with eyes closed, very few thoughts. When a thought arises, I ask the question, to whom does this thought arise? Ramana's teaching. I perceive a white space. The energy is strong. The teaching of Ramana, Langford, Sriman Narayana, and the pictures of the post of Sriman Narayana cross me on my meditation at this moment of white space. And I feel it that time to surrender completely. My question, have you got some advice in that moment in my meditation? Thank you for all. I took the translator to help me. I have got another question. I do my activities, interaction on the world. The teachings are always in my hands. Handcuffs? Probably my hands. And soon as I sit down, my eyes closed, few thoughts cross me. I have the impression of being in the activity of the world, and immediately with closed eyes, the world no longer exists. It seems easy to me with closed eyes. Or my ego is cheating on me. Am I cheating myself? Certainly, because I know that I'm not absorbed. Otherwise, I would have no doubt. My question is where my ego imprisons me, keeps me. But where is my prison? Where is my hypocrisy? Maybe this is the word, not sure, okay? Am I lying to myself? But why? Why does my ego makes me believe I'm looking for truth? Maybe to keep me. I have been on this path since one evening. An energy, some say grace, overturned me, where the past had no influence or less even now, and I was no longer able to project myself. Then one evening, for a few seconds, I was absorbed in consciousness. Since then, I have been on the path, but I would like to know if I'm honest. Does that make me feel guilty? I don't know anymore. Who am I? Why? It is as I have left a big winter coat for a light summer coat that fits better, more peaceful for worldly life, but is what I want. But does I really want to go deeper? I think yes. Sorry, I need to express myself. No need to apologize. You can express yourself as you need. But yes, this last paragraph, this sums it up. As I left a big winter coat for a light summer coat that fits better, more peaceful for worldly life, but is what I want. But do I want to go deeper really? I think yes. Well, this you think yes, but you will have to find out. As you try to take out this summer coat, then you will find out if actually you want to go deeper or you just want to enjoy summer. So this this quest for truth, it cannot be denied because even without the experience, seekers of truth have the longing, a longing for something that they don't understand, they don't know what it is, without any experience. If you get some experience, then it's like you've tasted the most sweetest thing in your experience. So it is only natural, unavoidable, that a quest for it begins intensely. So honesty is something that you conquer with time, because at one level you're honest, then if you can continue, intensify, you will see that your honesty can improve, and it will be always room for improvement. You see, that which is looking for freedom, it is also that which is the prison, so that character. And it's not that there's an interrupted line between, okay, so that which is seeking is the obstacle, so that disappears and it is solved. But how does it disappear if it is the obstacle and the motor for that quest? Well, you see, that character also tastes sweetness, tastes greatness as it disappears with it. So it is like a candle that, or fireworks, you see? They get burned, they explode, they give bright lights, very nice, and disappear. And honesty gets tested over and over again, because freedom may be the most fundamental, the most important thing for you. But that doesn't mean that you're not protecting that which is less important, that which is even irrelevant. And it doesn't mean that you're not keeping those things there and feeding the character, because you're not bringing them to the same, like in into a scale. See, a scale with two arms to weigh things. Maybe, I don't know if the scale is the right name for it in English, but okay, let's hope it is. So maybe truth has the biggest weight than the rest of things. But are you putting the two things in the scale, or are you treating them as independent things? And when something is asked, when you ask yourself, is freedom the most important thing? Yes, big yes is there. But then, at the same time, are you entertaining these things? You see? It's like, are you still keeping the sugar inside the water on the little tree outside, so that you keep the birds coming there and taking that sugar for you to enjoy the view? Because if you are, that doesn't make you honest, dishonest. It will make you at least naive, to think that, so this is the most important, but I'm still entertaining all these things. So they will not move because they go against one another. So I'm answer these questions backwards, because they are better answered backwards. So what is visible here is that you have achieved a certain balance, because you're having some experience of lightness, space, few interruption with thoughts and all of this. And this is giving you a stability for worldly activities and etc. So the teachings are there and helping you to have a more peaceful experience around you. But what is the point of having a peaceful experience around you? Is to have a better life, a better human life? No, absolutely not. The majority of seekers are onto it because of that, because of what wisdom promises, to have a more easygoing life, more calm, more peaceful. But that's not the point of that peace. So you're getting fruits of the teachings, fruits of your practice, but that's not evolving. You see, that peace that you get in human life, in your worldly life, that is precious time. It means that things are not pulling you intensely. And this time is not used in a way to enjoy what's there around, but to go deeper, deeper in that previous question, in that space that you talked about, that brightness, very little touched by thoughts. Because as you remain in your worldly life more peaceful and just moving around nice and quiet, you're still feeding those thoughts that are still disturbing your meditation or that permanence in that space. Because these either you're using time to abstract and to remain there at the source the more as possible as you can, or you're using it to just distract yourself. So if life is becoming more peaceful, more quiet, that means it is more possible to go more within and more within. And when I say within, it has nothing to do with the body or whatever. It is a different direction. Or attention is moving away from the center, or is moving closer to the center. So within, it means more closely to the center. And what you're describing here is a balance between this inward movement and outward movement. This movement closer to the center and this movement away from the center. There is balance there because there is still divided interests. It doesn't mean that the quest for truth is not the most important, but in practical terms, whatever that means, your time is being divided still. And you're enjoying that summer breeze with that light coat, instead of using that piece to burn the rest of the thoughts, the rest of the restlessness, the rest of the importances. So looking at your worldly life that you say that it's not that important and whatever, maybe you need to have to make something radical. Radical. It's I love that word and so many people don't like it. But radical, it's very good. It is decisive, decisive. Everybody is a radical to something else, to some positioning. So spirituality, it is the same. The more decisive you are, the more radical you will be called. But called by who? Intense, decisive action. To shake up that balance that is established. To test how deep your attachments go to. That means, see, when someone is dying, there's that machine that, I don't know the name in English, that you give shocks to the person, a lot of current to wake it up. So this is what that balance needs. And that you'll have to use your creativity. But just imagine yourself leaving all of that worldly, unimportant life behind. But really putting that into perspective, how would it be? And if your answer goes like, oh, nothing, I would put that to test to see if that's really the case. That balance needs to be broken, you see, because those forces are not supposed to be in balance. One will take over the other. And that experience you got through blessing or whatever that you're calling it, well, it's not supposed to be there to entertain that worldly character, which is having a nice summer breeze into worldly life and a nice summer breeze into spiritual life. Are you the lucky one? Nah, no. Because there are those, or the majority, that would look onto that situation and say, well, he's a lucky one because I'm struggling and I have to struggle. Well, sometimes struggle is being the lucky one, because if you have something to struggle with, that helps to move. But when things become easy, nice, and usually the majority tends to go through this, that is the most difficult part, because it is the light summer breathe coat. Who doesn't like the summer? Everybody likes the summer. And when the summer comes, nobody wants the summer to leave. They want to stay there. Who is waiting for winter? So luck is something that can be argued. Who is the luckiest one? Because that is more difficult when there's no friction coming. It is more difficult to come out of it. It becomes more difficult because no resistance is there, and the tendency to just letting go, and time moves very fast, very fast. So in the first part, how to fully surrender, sitting with eyes closed, very few thoughts. When thought arises, I ask the question, to whom does this thought arise? You also can try, if the thought arises, instead of asking that question, just let the thought go. Because even that question, if you're doing it as whenever a thought arises, then it is in a way giving it importance. Let's see if you can just let it go without being touched by it. This is a way to increase it. And this question, it's like you're just lost in space, being there in space. Wait, let me see. I perceive a white space. The energy is strong. No. At this moment of white space, I feel in that time to surrender completely. Okay, so that white space, it is kind of a middle ground, because when you ask, to whom is this thought arising? Or who am I? In a sense, this question appears to be being asked. To whom does this thought arise? It's not the same thing of who am I? More or less intellectually it may seem, but this who am I, it takes your attention to a place. The place which is closest to the center. And this is where you remain untouched by thoughts. Because if you're just in that space, which I've been talking about, the abstract place, it is good, but it has to evolve. Staying at that place closest to the center. This is where dissolution starts. So, as these thoughts are arising, who am I brings you to that source, and there you remain. And these thoughts coming up, not every thought needs to, this is only last resource. The question is only last resource, or else it's just mental noise. Last resource to bring you back to that place. And as you stay there, thoughts, it is normal for some thoughts to arise, or a lot depending on the level of agitation, and that is showing, and that will show the importances that are still there. And if you have to struggle, wrestle with every thought that arises, well, then you're creating agitation. And the part where you solve these things, it is good to have this struggle and to fight it if it is there, what to do. But it means that with your eyes closed, there are a lot of importance there that needs to be taken out of the way. And this feeling at that time to surrender completely, that is a genuine need to surrender, the recognition of that reality. But still, that ends when the eyes open. You see, to remain in that place more and more, it is the purpose of your worldly life to become simple, with less strings attached, with less confusions. So the summer is used to work harder, not to enjoy the warmth. So staying at that place, remaining there longer and longer, absorbing your worldly life, that is the natural evolution of things. And this is what is missing. This is what is missing. You're enjoying that moment, and yes, that feeling of wanting to surrender is it is honest, but you're enjoying the rest also. There's a lot of importances there that either you can see them clearly, or you will need some radical attitude towards it to really be able to see it, because superficial vision, whatever comes as an answer to you when you ask a question, that's not the right answer. That is superficial knowledge. That is the knowledge that the character needs to maintain the reality slash illusion that he is experiencing, which is the source of his own existence. So that knowledge, those answers that arise, by far, they have nothing to do with reality. This is why sometimes you need these radical attitudes to have a clear vision. Because if you're experiencing a summer breeze, oh, it's summer, so I don't know what winter is. There's no more winter for me. Maybe that's true, maybe not. Sometimes you have to push winter again to see if the cold affects you, if the rain upsets you. Well, depending on which part of the planet you are, of course. Sometimes you have to push this winter radically into that life to see, to test the solidity of your summer. To sum it up, there's this division in your worldly life and your spiritual life, and you have to look at it as only your spiritual life. The only goal is the quest for truth. If it is easier to stay in that place, if there is that presence, that intense energy, so that means you have to stay there longer and longer and longer. If there is nothing in the world there for you yet, but you know that you're not awakened yet, so that means that peace, that lack of importance in the world, it has to mean more time in that place that you have described. Closer and closer to the center of the eye. If it's not meaning this, then, well, like I said previously. Okay? So if you have more questions about this, you can send, you can say whatever you need. No problem, because this has what comes in a need to express. It's revealing and shows what are the importances that really lie there. So time is the most precious thing there is. And, well, philosophically speaking, you can say, but for who is time? The characters in Israel and all of this, but that's not how it works. And that is only allowing for this split into that which you're living. The reality is you are truth, you are infinity, but that is not your present perception. So you must look at your present perception, evolve from there, and keeping truth as the north, as the north. Okay, so at the beginning, to maintain this attitude, mainly with open eyes, is it normal to feel an inner tension, a constant effort to maintain yourself in this space of abstraction from the world? In Neo-Advaita movements, they say it is effortless. However, in practice, it looks very different. Yes, when it is theoretical, it is effortless, but in practical, it is quite different. So those who are really practicing, they will feel this tension, because it's like you're affirming something, you're trying to see something, you're believing it is true, but your senses, your mind, everything is compelling you to the opposite. So this creates tension, because this is not important, this is not real, but still pain is here as I try to see this, and pain will be here if I'm not trying to see this also. So pain is there. Senses are giving you a different, completely opposite feedback, and you're trying to see that which are in the highest teachings, the highest truths. You're trying to see this because you're believing it, because there's something there that is telling you that this is real. So this constant effort to maintain in that place of abstraction creates tension. Effort, tension, they go together. But if you persist, if you maintain that effort and you persist, eventually, because you have to go from where you are, eventually you will start seeing some things, and seeing is much more than just observing, but you will start seeing some things that will hint, that start to hint that, for starts, that the vision you have from the world, it's not quite like that. You may not be seeing, yes, still this, what this Advaitic teaching is pointing, the unreality of the world. Maybe you're not seeing this, but you will start to see that the beliefs that you had about yourself, the beliefs that you had about the world, they don't follow. You will get a hint here, a hint there, and that will slowly starts to back it up, these teachings that are still abstract for you, apart from this inner thing that is telling you, no, this is true. And with this backing from your experience, this tension, this effort starts reducing a little bit, because there's something there that is starting to backing it up. And the more you continue with this, the more it will grow inside of you, and the less effort will be there. Until eventually you'll have your experiences bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes effortless. Eventually. So when the awakened one says it is effortless, it is true. Only it's not true for you yet. But if you go through this, oh, but it is effortless, and there's no effort in there, you're not making an effort. So you're just traveling, whatever that means, because you're not moving from where you really stand. And you will create two split realities, a spiritual one and a worldly one. So if you're sincere, in the beginning there will be effort and tension. And maintaining this struggle, trying to see it, trying to abstract from the world, really will create this tension. You'll be tested in your fears, you'll be tested in your dependencies, everything will be there. And to maintain your attitude of abstraction, tension and suffering will be there. But eventually, the fruits of it, the blessings that come from it, will show you slowly and slowly, or fast, depends on you, depends on destiny also. And will start to back up these highest teachings of the delusion of the inexistent world, and then it will become more easy. Tension will reduce until it becomes effortless. But in these Neo-Advaitic movements, and I'm not talking about Neo-Advaita, I'm talking about the movements in itself, they say it is effortless because they are doing no effort. Actually, they are doing anything. Well, but that's a different story. Sorry for my honesty, but if you can take it, it will help you. And I hear a lot of these questions coming from those in these movements, and there is nothing that resonates from there. Very few have this resonance. Very few are having this work, and the words are completely different. For example, this question that I answered previously, there's resonance. There is work, there is something really going there. The rest is just mental gymnastics. Very nice ones, but only for worldly purposes. And worldly purposes means to maintain that character going. Okay, so Varad from India. How to conquer my fear, how to heal my procrastination. Om Gurudev. Okay, my friend. So, how to conquer your fear? Fear is a limitation. It is a shackle that keeps you imprisoned into worldly perception. So, to conquer your fear, it's not fighting with your fear, but it is to keep yourself exposed to that fear until it does not impress you anymore. It's not about fighting it, it is about exposing yourself to it. Letting yourself be present to it, not creating more power in yourself so that you can overcome it, because you're not overcoming it. If you have to create more power, That means you are giving importance to it, and eventually you may solve the fear in connection to that situation, but it will come back with a different face. But fear is fear. So you have to be exposed to it. And if you're practicing your stillness, abstraction, the world will try to remove you from that place. And in the beginning especially, it will be through fears. It will continue also, but as you grow, this will take a little bit longer, and fears will come from deeper and more intense. But it is the same. So as these fears are arising, and you will lose this or you will lose that, the way to overcome that fear is, okay, let's see what happens. I will continue what I'm doing. I will not move an inch. And you will have to live this fear. For example, well, that fear of losing something. Well, it's not sure that you will lose it or not, something, someone, whatever. The respect of others, whatever. But the fear is arising intensely, so you're living it. And what does the fear is asking from you? What is the fear is demanding from you? It is demanding some sort of action so that you don't live the situation. So it is bringing your attention back to the world. It is forcing you to invest, to preserve and protect that delusion. And the way to overcome it is saying, no, it doesn't matter what happens, I will do nothing to avoid it. And you will also not push things under the rug, like you will not avoid the pain and the suffering, treating it just as unreal, it's not real. No, you will look at it, you will live it as real as it comes. Your focus will be entirely that, being exposed to that pain, to that suffering, to that intensity. And just holding yourself not to interfere, not to invest again so that you will not be living that, so that you won't be exposed to that lost. For example, we're using the example of losing something or someone. What has to go has to go, what has to stay has to stay, it doesn't matter. But I will not do anything. I won't interfere in any sense to avoid that. And in that process, you are living, experiencing that, all that fear, suffering that is coming. And as you are being exposed to it, it becomes known, familiar. And you will start to be less and less sensitive to that, to fear, to suffering. So it will not be able to impress you that much. It will lose the power to enforce itself through you. If you're struggling fear or running away from it or just complying, you're giving it power. In whatever sense. But if you're just being exposed to it, not fighting it, not doing anything, it becomes familiar. And eventually, your mind gets used to it and stops being impressed by it. And that is the only power that fear has over you, is to impress you. Without that, just, okay, do whatever you want. Let's see. Of course, it won't be like this. This will be the attitude, but inside everything is. But if you persist, Then as you reach the end, this is the difficult part, because it can only last a period of time. You see, if suffering was continuous, if fear was continuous, it would lose its power to impress you. This is why it has to go like this. It appears, go intensely, and then it disappears. Or else it will lose the power to impress. As it is appearing and rising, it seems like it lasts forever, but it doesn't. It's just a period. Because the more time it remains intensely, the more it reveals itself. And this will happen. The more you go, the more you grow, more towards the end of your process of liberation, the world will rebel itself intensely against you to bring back this attention. And in the beginning, it is your desperation. In the end, it will be the world desperation. And the more despair you get, the more wrong things you will do. This is the same for the world, because the more desperate the world becomes, the more visible it will get. It will be difficult to sometimes to, how do you say this, to hold this, to experience it, because sometimes it gets really, really intense. But at the same time, you're seeing it. You're seeing the mechanics of it, and it's so intense that it is completely visible that what you deemed as normal, just something innocent, worldly life, something innocent, you will have the clear vision that there's nothing innocent about it, and it is there to take your attention back. And this will give you perspective. And the more intense it becomes, the more visible it will be for you, the more visible its own mechanics. And as the mechanics of fear and all these things become visible, then when they start, you're already identifying it and dismissing it, because you know what it is. So it can create havoc a little bit, but it cannot hold. Okay, so Instagram has fallen down. We'll just continue here. Just wait a little bit. Just a minute here. And we'll continue again. Okay, here we go. So this is how fear is overcome, by being exposed to it. So if you know you're fearing something, well, you can accelerate that by just exposing yourself to it. Not in this kind of attitude, okay, now I'll conquer it. No resistance, just exposing yourself without offering resistance. Or you can intensify your silence and the fears will come to you. And as they come to you, same attitude, no resistance. Living, your attention must be on that inner experience, the vision of everything which is happening there, or the fears, the beliefs that are there. And this is good because you will see the mechanics of your own delusion. You will see the thoughts, feelings, that which still is important to you. All the beliefs about yourself, about the world, you will see them if you're paying attention. And you will resist the urge that the fear is creating for you to interfere in changing the course of happenings. It doesn't matter how intense it is. The more intense, the better. Sometimes people think, no, but this is too much. It is not. It's only a matter of, can you persist? Because if you persist, you will see. If you don't persist, you won't see. It's not impossible. There's no such thing. How impressionable you are. So this is the way to overcome fear. And your next question, Varat. How to heal my procrastination? Well, like I said in another video, there is no such thing as procrastination. No procrastination. What does this mean? It means that whatever you're investing in apart from something else, and I will take this procrastination connected to your spiritual process. So it's not that you have stopped your spiritual work, it is that you're doing something else. So there's no procrastination connecting to your spiritual work. There is something which is being prioritized in connection to your spiritual work. So you have to look at your life and to see what is really important for me. If you're looking for freedom, if freedom is number one, if it isn't, there's no point for me to continue answering. So I will answer considering this is priority number one. If freedom is number one, what is there in my day, in these 24 hours? What is there which is taking my time from the goal of freedom? Because whatever is there, I am giving it priority. And I have to change my priorities to awakening, to stand to what is really important to me. Like I said, there's no procrastination. There is always prioritizing, making a priority of something. You're always making something the priority of your time, of this moment. And if the goal is freedom, but the time, the priority in this moment is not connected to freedom, so this priority has to be seen and cut out, whatever it is. And this, for sure, will bring the fears, and then you can overcome them by the way that I spoke previously. So this idea that I'm procrastinating, connecting to the spiritual work or to something else, this is wrong and creates confusion. Because it's like, okay, so I have a problem to do this spiritual work, to concentrate fully on this. But the answer is no, there's no problem concentrating on here. You're just concentrating on something else apart from that. So now let's look at this something else. Is it connected to my spiritual process? In that context, of course it isn't. So it has to be cut out. And that time has to be used. Because, okay, so the goal is freedom. There is something here connected to your heart that tells you the goal is freedom. There is a mental goal also telling you the goal is freedom. But that is, it doesn't have any form. What is more concrete to that character, to the body-mind complex, is survival. is the story of the character. So this is what will be automatically prioritized. So you have to get out from automatic. Because this is what happens, you see? You're not procrastinating spiritual work. You're just going into automatic and you remember randomly. Like I remember now, then I forget, get absorbed into normal life, and then I remember again. You have to get out from this automatic and start to prioritize that which is the real priority. And that means cutting everything else as possible. And this as possible, it just speaks about your present moment. And if you do what is possible now, afterwards something more will be possible. If you look at things and say, oh, but that is impossible to go all the way through, and you just stay put, well, that will be your reality. But if you look, okay, all of that, I will try, but it is impossible, but I will try as hard as I can. You will get something out of it. And as you get something out of it, more will be possible afterwards, because you have outgrown a little bit. So procrastination means wrong priorities, but still priorities. And just cutting priorities, well, it doesn't bring too much result because it's not possible. But if you look at those priorities, you will see that which you're occupying your time with. You will understand clearly what are the importance that you still hold dear. What are your attachments, expectations, dreams about worldly life? And this is to understand, to have a vision of your own delusion, the mechanics you hold, the beliefs that are there assisting that vision and that worldly life. Then you can do the cutting. First, this vision is very important. Afterwards, cutting and living the processes that arise through this cutting. And as you cut that time that is left, this is used for intensifying your spiritual work. And that is spiritual work. See? So procrastination gives you a wrong feedback of where the problem really is. Unless you're saying that, no, but I just remain like, doing nothing, no spiritual work, but just absent and doing nothing. Then we could say, okay, so there's procrastination there. You just, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow I'm doing nothing. But usually that's not the case. You'll do that tomorrow because today there is something more important. But if you ask yourself, is this more important than freedom? Answer, no, of course not. That is in theoretical terms. But in practical terms, if you're giving more time to this than to that, then this is more important. But if that is the reality, if worldly life, worldly attachments are more important, but still, for you, freedom is more important, you have to stand up to that importance connected to freedom. And that means arising from these lower importances. And that will mean to live all the detachment process from it, the cutting of importances, the fears and all this, and all those things. And that means to grow spiritually. Okay, my friend? So, Varat, if you have more questions, well, you can send them. Let's see what we have more. So, Vishvakarma, who is Supreme God? Well, this question coming from someone who's from India may mean a lot of things. What is the sole purpose of human life? Well, your second question answers the first one. So the only purpose of human life is to know what is Supreme God. Despite your beliefs about God, personal God, impersonal God, whatever, it is to know directly, to become part, to dissolve in. Whatever the terminologies are, they do not go against one another. Bhakti and Gyan are the same. They are just seen different, lived experience different, but the fruits of it is the same. If your questions would be a little bit more specific, then I would continue more, but as you just summed it up like this, then let me go a little bit beyond this. The sole purpose of human life and God. So, in one level, more or less for everybody, they may not know what the purpose of life is because they don't even know what life is, but everybody's looking for happiness, joy. So it's another word, but the confusion is that life, joy, happiness is circumstantial, and it's not. So this quest of happiness, of joy, through circumstances, this is something which is, this is the mistake, you see, because it is the source, is the ultimate happiness, ultimate joy. It has a name also, can call as God, freedom, bliss, a lot of things. So as the words that are put onto it disappear, the ultimate is still the ultimate, and words will never be able to touch it. There was something else here. Okay, so there's something. Oh, someone is writing here, so let's wait a little bit. So there was a post. When was the last time you've spoken to God? Yes, God, almost another bad word these days. When was the last time? Have a secret to tell you, this is a divine romance. Everything that you are experiencing is about love, not the love that you're familiar with, but something far greater. This was a posting, and it continues. And there was this question, how to develop the pure relationship with God. So the pure relationship with God, it is about becoming one with God, not about maintaining this this character within the relationship with God. It's about merging into God, dissolving into God. And that means whatever relationship is there, it's not a relationship about receiving favors from God to help you in your human experience or whatever. It is that relationship that is about increasing the love towards God, and for that love that love will become bigger and bigger than you, and that dissolution in that love becomes a reality, that merging with God. If God is just a companion of your journey and someone that you pray to help into certain things, well, that relationship is compromised. And there was this question about the last paragraph. And the last paragraph, well, it's the same. If you are going to God for Him to help you with something you're not understanding, you are missing the point. You are going to that which is, well, the rest is missing, is not coming on the photograph that they have sent me. But okay, you're not going to that which is, you're going to that which is the end, like something that was the means for the end. And this is a mistake, because God is not a means for something. It is the end in itself. And that is the absolute, the infinite, impersonal aspect is the same. Personal, impersonal, these are just words that point to something which is the same, the same. So, okay, my friend, you give up on writing, or maybe you're using translator or whatever. No, I make my life boring, peaceful, don't want, I miss something deeply. Okay, so this is probably inviting you to have a more intense, radical stance directed to your spiritual process, and to break that balance that has been established in your inner abstraction experiences connecting to your worldly life. And as boring it can be, it's still in some way comfortable and keeping you away from diving deeply into that abstraction. So it's like you're in the middle of the ocean, floating with a floating device. I don't know the name in English, or I don't remember, whatever. No, no, not a boat, not a boat, not that one. Something smaller that babies put around them. And that just smaller. Boat is still too big. So you're floating there, and as boring as it can be, well, it's still floating the character around. So that serves the last goal to that character, which is survival. So the character has two stances. The first one is survival. Second one is to prosper. When it's not possible to prosper, it will concentrate in surviving. And it is quite good at it. It is the best in survival. When survival is guaranteed, then prospering is the next one. And this is like, it's the same that happens in meditation, for example. If meditation doesn't evolve to abstraction, then it becomes a part of survival also. Because in the beginning you hold on to a technique, and it is very important, because as you are holding on to that technique, apart from a lot of things that are happening, apparently, you're abstracting from the rest of the things. So all your effort goes to this technique, to holding on to that technique, to increasing the time that you're engaged with that technique, but eventually that technique will also become something that you're holding on to. So first you were in dry land, and that technique was taking you to the ocean. Then that technique becomes something that you're holding on to, and to maintain yourself. So it is the same. So breaking with those last stances. It doesn't matter if your life is boring, still it is enough to keep you floating in the ocean. So radical, intense action sometimes is very good. Well, okay. So let's see if anything else comes. I see that in life we always ask for our opinion, our ideas, but I can see that it is built on an illusion. I'm looking for something that does not change. Well, that place that you described as your abstraction place, that field of white energy that sometimes is disturbed by thoughts, that is close to that which is unchangeable, and that is where you need to remain. But I'm not sure if you quite grasped, because this radical shift, this radical action is really for you, is directed to your moment now. So dismiss it if you want, or use it if you want. I am here. I am always here. I am all that is. I am that which is untouched by thoughts, feelings, sensations. And in me I remain. Okay. So I know there's a lot of, some of you that are watching Satsang. Some are from India, a lot of seekers from India, and from other places, France, for example, or French-speaking languages, and that sometimes you find difficult to put the questions into English. Or even those who are watching this that are from Brazil or Portugal or whatever, and it is difficult, or you're having difficulties in asking the questions, or you, for Portuguese speaking people, you feel that it's inappropriate to ask the questions here, that it is better for you to ask in Portuguese. Well, for those who are speaking in Portuguese and having these ideas, well, you can send your questions to me. You can send them in Portuguese and I will answer them in English. Or if you send the question in Portuguese and you say that you don't understand English or you don't understand quite good, I can answer you in Portuguese even during English satsang. Or if it is a subject that can be useful for others, I can make a satsang in Portuguese. I'm available for that, like I'm always saying. But for example, you understand quite well English, but you don't write too well. You can send your question in Portuguese, and if you say, oh, I understand English, okay, so I can translate directly from Portuguese to English here, and I will answer it to you, no problem, okay? So for others that are coming from India, and if you're having difficulties with language, or you're coming from French or any other thing, well, English is not my mother language also, so the advantage of that is that I can grasp a little bit the efforts that are behind this trying to put the question, to write it down. So don't be shy, you can send the questions and I will try to answer the best as I can. And as for me, it isn't my mother language also. Well, I see it as an advantage in this sense, that I can try to figure it out what is that which is behind the question. Okay? We do the best with what we have. But if you just hold there and don't put the question, well, it will be difficult for you to get an answer. So next satsang in English will be Wednesday. Wednesday, 9 o'clock in the morning Brazilian time. That means UTC -3. Until there, keep up the stillness, keep up the work. Okay.